Green spaces aren't a luxury. They are a basic infrastructure just like schools and public transports. But do we even know how much green space a city needs? What makes a green space to be good? And when the politicians talk about going green, are they making real changes or just covering up the cracks? In this video we'll break it down with facts and real examples and dismantle some urban myths. Green spaces are very important because they provide us an enormous amount of benefits. Environmental benefits like clean air, regulation of temperature, soil drainage and biodiversity. They also provide social benefits where people rest, children play and communities gathered. And last, economical benefits such as developing economical activities, creating jobs and strengthen local economies. There are many different types of green spaces, but not all of them work in the same way. To make it simple and easier, we're going to group the 6 most common types of green spaces. So the main types are green roundabouts, tree-lined streets, green playgrounds, small and simple gardens, comprehensive gardens, and the last, urban forest. So let's compare the benefits of each type of gardens. As you can see, roundabouts add very little benefits. Tree-lined streets, playgrounds, and small gardens bring some value. Urban forests are the best for the environment, while comprehensive gardens give the biggest whole return. So can we build an enormous green roundabout and level up with a lack of gardens? To answer that, we must get into the next subject, quality. Quality. It is the core subject of the green spaces. It might be a tiny bit theoretical, but let's unpack this and stay with me. A field of lawn next to a noisy motorway is not the same thing as a well-designed park full of life. And for that reason, we must measure quality. So let's look at the 5 main points of a specific green space. First, target. Does it serve only children, or adults, or local or regional residents? Second, comfort and safety. Are there shaded areas, noise barriers and good visibility? Third, sustainable materials. Does it have native plants, a low water use and a low upkeep? Accessibility. Is it within 10 minutes walk for most residents? And last and not least, value. It accounts the balance between the cost and the public benefit. For instance, if a garden is ridiculously expensive to maintain, it will be doomed to be abandoned. In short, gardens shouldn't be measured by square meters. They should be measured by the lived experience. According to the World Health Organization, each person should have at least 9 square meters of green space, but ideally closer to 50. So let's look over the top 10 metropolitan areas in Europe. When we examine the results, they are remarkable. Cities like Berlin far exceed the WHO ideal benchmark, offering nearly double the recommended area per capita. However, if we exclude green roundabouts, tree-lined streets and private gardens, excluding wild urban forests that are technically public but socially inaccessible, then the picture shifts dramatically. We must face the reality. Amongst the 10 European cities, none of the cities meets the recommended benchmark. Berlin, Frankfurt are closer. And on the other end of the spectrum, cities like Barcelona, Rome and Paris are just above the minimal acceptable level. Before we start comparing cities, we need to speak about an essential factor, the history of a city. It will be very unfair to compare Athens, a very old capital shaped by thousands of years in history, with Brasilia in Brazil, a city purpose-built in the late 1950s. Even within a city, you will find a mix of densities with historic neighborhoods and new developed low-density areas. Each of these areas and zones have different needs and they face distinct limitations. In new districts, it's easy and cheaper to include green spaces from the start. But in old cities, it's trickier, but it's not impossible. Solutions must include like pedestrianizing streets, removing excess traffic, planting trees along the streets, and creating small pocket parks. These practices can renew not only green spaces, but also local commerce and public life. So let's peel back the layers of one of the most debated subjects of the green space, the cost and its value. Of course, we shouldn't measure green spaces only by the money they generate, but we also shouldn't ignore their costs or their economic benefits. So let's take a quick look at what different types of green spaces really cost. At the low end, tree-lined streets and urban forests are relatively cheap both to build and to maintain. Green roundabouts and playgrounds cost more but still deliver decent value. But look at the spike. Comprehensive gardens. They are by far the most expensive, especially in the long-term maintenance. Let's talk about the value. Famous historical gardens like St. James Park in London, Parque del Retiro in Madrid, or even Place des Vosges in Paris, they are costly to maintain. But they are also city icons, major attractions, and powerful tourist magnets. Just look at New York. Central Park draws 40 million visitors a year, compared to the only 3 million at the Modern Art Museum. These spaces create real economical activity. Jobs for dog walkers, bike rentals, personal trainers, cafes, ice cream vans, and even bigger events like concerts, weddings, and film shoots. All of this brings money into the local economy and in many cases revenue directly back to the parks themselves. And about property value, it increased enormously near those areas. In London, around St. James Park and Green Park, property increased over 140%, and in Paris, around Place des Vosges, over 130%. This means higher property value means higher local tax revenue. This brings the valid point that these expensive gardens also have a higher return and possibly can be paid for themselves. And this brings us for the last subject, the role of local authorities. Green spaces don't appear by magic. They depend on local choices. Local authorities decide whether a park is truly for the community or just a sales pitch for new flats. The housing industry knows it well. More green usually means higher prices. And too often we were promised the perfect Garden of Eden. But what we get are locked, soulless, neglected, or just simply empty spaces. So the real question is the garden for everyone or just a facade to sell property at double the price? That's why local government must go beyond green marketing. They need to set a clear, measurable goals like real community use, equal access, proper maintenance and genuine evaluation. Otherwise, we risk ending up with nothing more than landscape cosmetics. Cities need a mix of green spaces because different types serve different purposes. Good green spaces cost money, but they are worth it. And there are important learnings. Green playgrounds are the best cost benefit for social value. Urban forests, best for the environment and climate resilience. Comprehensive gardens have the highest overall impact. A good park is more than grass and benches. It's where children build memories, neighbors connect, and the city breathes. So next time you hear about green plans, ask, green how, where, and for whom? And in the next local election, look at the parks. They say more about the city than 1,000 cement fuel promises. And what's your take? Leave your thoughts in the comments. And if you like this video, click like and subscribe.